What's up guys, Frantic here, and welcome to the Sunday Show where we delve into music that I've been listening to this week in hopes of you enjoying it. This week's episode, Scarsick by Pain of Salvation. Let's jump in. Scarsick is the 6th studio album by Pain of Salvation, and it is, once again, another album that delves in very interesting topics that are typically statement-oriented. This album had very mixed reviews, and that's because you can see it as either, wow, these are some really smart things to be said, or you could see it as pretentious, or maybe even, I'm 14 and this is deep. Nonetheless, I think it's a really good album and provides a very good, discussion, and it's a really good listen to, honestly, time and time again. We start off with the title track, Scarsick, with Daniel Gildenlow doing some quick speaking, for lack of a better term. Now you could say it's rapping, I don't think it's that, maybe it's spoken word, but I don't think it's rapping, because we're gonna get there, don't worry. The song, while not having as too central focus on any specific topic, does hit a lot of different topics. But what I think it does hit on the best and the most, which becomes the center, topic of this album, conformity. We'll come back to it time and time again throughout this album, but that's essentially what it sets up. Pretty fitting for a title track. The next track, it's a standout track, but it might not be because it's honestly good or musically good. This track is called Spitfall, and in the best way possible, it's a rap parody. Now, parody implies that there's a song they're covering, so maybe that's the wrong term. Either way, Daniel Gildenlow decides he's gonna rap this song. And why? Because he wants to call out the stereotypical rapper, this rags to riches person who just doesn't understand who they're preaching to. The song itself has a lot of good lines. Don't get me wrong, there's really good disses in here if you're into that kind of thing. I mean, me personally, I don't know. But honestly, the song hits conformity again, because it just accuses all the common rappers that are out there now of doing just that, which is conforming. And to give you a taste of exactly what he's saying, there's a line in the song that says, "It's getting late in the game, you're trapped, repeating your name again and again like you're scared we'll forget it, but I can't blame you because apart from that name, you're all embarrassingly the same." So that kind of gives you an idea of what he's saying to all these rappers, and it makes it a very interesting song to listen through. The next track is yet again another standout track, but this time lyrically. And it's a song I would absolutely recommend if you don't want to sit down and give this whole album a listen to, or maybe you're just looking for a quick taste. That song is Crib Caged. Crib Caged mocks the more religious-like worship of those celebrities or rich people. And it gives us a simple way of comparing it. We should care for the cribs of our children, not other cribs. And cribs just means, these expensive houses or expensive kitchens or whatever you will. And the song literally says fuck all of those. That's not a joke. It actually just says fuck it all. Why does it take such a hard stance on all that? Well, it kind of reiterates that point towards the end when it just keeps saying, you're just people. And that's where it comes in to say this worship of them is just wrong when they're literally like you or me, they just have money. Which, speaking of money, goes to my favorite line in the song, one of my favorite lines on the album. I don't want to hear their voices as long as they vote with their wallets. I think this is a good song lyrically. Musically, it's not too interesting, I'm not gonna lie. But that doesn't have to always be the case. Because like I said, with the lyrics in this song, it definitely draws great comparisons to our modern day worship of famous people. And I definitely like that. So if Crib Cage is worth your time to listen to, I would absolutely recommend the next track, one of the most controversial tracks on the album, and that song is called America. So far, listening to this album, you could probably see it as a potentially anti-American album. I mean, it does hit and talk down to almost the different types of cultural norms or just aspects of culture in America. So with that being said, when we go to listen to the song America, it absolutely is an attack on American ideals. So if you've been thinking that throughout the album so far, it kind of comes full circle at this point. Because there are a lot of lines in the song that definitely say that, and some that make you go, whoa, they just said that? Like the line, now you're scared that the Arabs will kill for your God like you did yours? Whoa. If that line didn't catch your attention, what about this one? A simple democracy where every failure and flaw is called a right. What about a new freedom based on your income, your color, your creed, or your choice of gun? Man, does that hit home in a way that you may not expect. Followed by a quick commercial break, I can see how this song could be seen as anti-American for sure, or potentially pretentious, like, I'm better than you because I'm not American. I don't think that's what's being said. Daniel Gildenlow, can't say his last name too right apparently, he isn't anti-American. He sells his music here, he tours here, he wouldn't be, if he was truly anti-American, if he didn't want to be a hypocrite, he wouldn't do that. I don't think he's saying fuck America, while he might almost literally say that in this album. What I think he's trying to say is take a step back. look at everything around you. Have some perspective and don't get so caught up in the self-righteousness of patriotism, essentially. Now that we've had a chance to take in a couple of songs that are very heavy tones, let's take it back and jump into a lighter song, which is Disco Queen, which also happens to be my favorite track on the album. The message of this song, it's actually pretty simple. There's not much to take away from it. It's essentially a club night story where a man meets a woman and they have sex. Pretty simple, right? The song changes styles pretty frequently, and that's because they're trying to mirror the 70s disco songs and then more modern rock. I think it's a cool little mixture, and the purpose of this mixture really is just to say that the club nights we have now are no different than the 70s disco times. Really just kind of saying they parallel each other in a way. Honestly, it's the lightest track lyrically. There's not too much to take away from it. It's fun, it's upbeat, it's catchy, musically it's really interesting. So it's definitely a song that you can listen to and not have to sit there and contemplate your existence, essentially. Now we move on to the second half of the album, which is a little darker, not only in tone, but in discussion. So we move on to the song Kingdom of Loss, which is a commentary on capitalism and how we just buy what we're told to buy. There's a very standout line in this, and while there are a lot of lines in the song I could preach to you, I think one of the best ones is, we pay for fast food that will make us fat and tired. So then we pay for elevators so we don't have to climb the 3 stairs to our apartment. Just tell us who to pay. That sums the song pretty well. Not to say it's an attack on fast food culture or anything like that. No, it's more of an attack on the capitalism that has taken away our individuality and our choices. So also, it's able to be looked at through a pretentious view, like, oh, again, he's just telling us that we should have individualism and stand up against capitalism or whatever. But I think in reality, what it's saying is everything is for sale. And it hits home again with probably my favorite line in this entire album, which also happens to be the chorus. Welcome down to planet Earth. Please don't ask us what it's worth. You'll notice that the world you found is slightly tattered and torn down. And that is a strong statement alone, saying that we've just torn apart the world for profit's sake. Which ties back into the whole capitalistic viewpoint of this song, or at least anti-capitalistic viewpoint, saying we've destroyed everything around us for nothing but the gain of money, something we created ourselves to merit worth. So it's a very interesting, even philosophical point at this point, to just kind of step back and say, why do we hand over money for the destruction of everything around us? Following that track is Mrs. Modern Mother Mary, which tells the story of, well, Modern Mother Mary, which is essentially a woman who finds God. This song starts off in a much different point than it ends. It starts off with a woman being burned at the stake, saying something really strong, I think. Stupidity and ignorance, prejudice and intolerance sounds so much better when dressed up in Latin. That's an interesting thing to discuss, in my opinion, but not necessarily where this song goes, because it mentions all that and then starts focusing on the Modern Mother Mary, the woman who's found God. Now, this song, and honestly this album, is very guilty of taking stereotypes and attacking them. Now, I'm not going to comment too much on that because I don't think that's the purpose of this video necessarily. More so, I'm trying to tell you what's being said and let you decide. But this song definitely does hit a stereotype, and it's your stereotypical soccer mom. Be that as it may, it definitely says a very interesting line that could be seen as very insulting to anybody who's in a similar stance, where it essentially says raising your overweight kids in the outskirts of suburbia. That's a lot of things to say and discuss amongst yourself, really, because that is touchy, is the best way to put it. I think if you don't focus on that too much, and then check out the other lines in the song, especially the chorus, essentially, where the viewpoint is, I found a better world now that I found God, I have a bigger view, almost as if I'm better than you, then you can start to have a better discussion of what I think the song is truly trying to say. But each song does have its own laced insults thrown in against whatever it is they're speaking out against. I don't personally find that to be a very good way of arguing against someone. I don't insult somebody if I disagree with them. But that's how they chose to write this. So that's all I'm really going to say about that topic. But again, this does hit on something else. Self-righteousness, a common theme in this album. It essentially says, you shouldn't be so self-righteous when you find God. Don't cut away everyone from you because you think somehow you're better than them. I think it's a very good song in that sense, ignoring a lot of the laced insults they throw in. Now I'm going to go rapid fire through these last 3 songs because there's simpler messages to be had and it ends on a somber note. Idiocracy is the next track. Now this track is simple. It actually is very relevant to today's world. because it discusses blind trust of the media and everything around you, to be in a safer space, essentially, where you don't have to hear the outside worldviews, you just listen blindly to what's told to you, and that makes you feel better, it makes you sleep better at night. With the last two tracks, Flame to the Moth being the first one, the main character finally comes to this point of true frustration, where he is essentially preaching to others to ask what the real truth of the world is, and he just is preaching to them. Maybe ironically is how it could be seen based on everything he said so far. But ultimately, he essentially says, get the truth or die. Now, that's a dark note, but it essentially does happen to him. He threatens suicide, and by the ending, enter rain. I think that's what happens to him. So to sum it all up, the common theme here is conformity. There's some self-righteousness thrown in. There's some very self-awareness that needs to be had by the people listening. But overall, it's conformity, and it wants you to be against conformity. Be your own self. Don't be what the world wants you to be or expects you to be. Do what you want to do, and don't blindly follow everything in front of you, because all those things are angled in a way that's supposed to maybe manipulate you or make you something you're not. The main character is very frustrated with the Western world, America, and he honestly just asks you to be true with yourself. Open your eyes, for lack of a better term, to see past the nonsense that's fed to you. I enjoy this album. I think it's very good and brings up very good points. There are some parts in it that I feel about, but overall it's a good album that at least has you thinking. And that's more than we can ask for from a lot of music today. Not to sound pretentious, of course. And for the argument of this album is pretentious, I won't listen to it for that reason, I find that to be a weak argument. Because pretentious or not, what you're essentially saying is I won't listen to it because reasons. Reasons that aren't said. I don't want it to be talking down to me. It's pretty easy to take yourself out of it and see it through a different perspective than your own. And if it's taken that personally, I guess maybe this isn't the album for you. Overall, I'd highly recommend this album. It's a really unique album that has a lot of different musical styles. It definitely is unique in and of itself for the progressive scene. And if you just want a quick taste of this album, go listen to Crib Caged, America, or Disco Queen. Because those songs are super fun and super awesome in my opinion, and definitely give you a good taste of what the album is about. Alright guys, that about does it for me. What do you guys think of this album if you've gotten a chance to listen to it? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. I do apologize, I was out sick last week, so you didn't get a Sunday show. But I should be back next week for another one. What did you guys think of the last episode I did? Did you like everything I'd mentioned? Did you hate it? Did you love it? I always want to know. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next Sunday.